hear anything. So let's do this.
I do.
Six, 22, 22.
In there.
Oh, do I said shit?
No, that's okay. Be sure I'm muted here. Hold on. Internet connection unstable.
Why am I the only one that's not muted?
I think Izetta can control that.
She didn't see me coming.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
All right.
Hi, Erin.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. Enjoying this nice weather.
Beautiful. I was up at 5 a.m. picking green beans.
Oh my gosh. We were up at 3 a.m., but not for green beans.
There we go. So whenever you're ready.
4 minutes. Yeah, we got some time.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I hope this is stable, honey.
Well, let's see if it's stable. Thank you, dear. Love you. Thanks, honey.
I guess I'll sit there.
All right, so we are at the. I'm gonna go right past you.
Oh, it's gonna be too tall for the ceiling in here?
It's pretty tall. Maybe I'll let that work. Yeah, it's taller than this. Let me just get it to work. That'll take care of it. It doesn't hammer.
Can you lean it?
Do you want to put it in the, put it over here and just? What about right outside?
Actually,
Grab it when it's time to do the pledge?
you know, Rod, just stand over there with your back in the corner and just hold it out for the meeting.
But that's a taller ceiling right out.
No, it can lean. It can lean.
Can. Do it by the door.
I'm only kidding.
Okay, well, we have a flag and we'll use it for us. Doesn't have to be on another board either.
Do we have a small flag somewhere?
Yeah, I want to get that out of the courtroom, is that soon?
Problems. Use a table.
What have you been doing?
Oh, wow. Zooming. Zooming. I'm zoomed out.
Okay, Roger, can you hear me? Roger?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah, while we're waiting, can I call you after this meeting? I wanted to talk to you about something.
Absolutely. Yep. Please.
Can you give me your number real quick?
541
Yeah,
980
yeah.
1728.
Okay, I'll call you right after the meeting, okay?
Sounds good. Yes.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
Can I get a price check on those Del Monte beans on aisle 7?
That's $2.79 if you buy the case, but it's 79 cents each.
Got it.
What's up?
I know, we should grab the flag. Yeah.
I think that's just as long.
I don't think so. I think it's a little short.
It's close.
Right. We may have a little bit of height restriction, but not as bad.
Now you got it. Just lean it in the corner.
You just put this one here for now, we'll put it back.
I'll bring you one from the house.
I've got some small ones to put on the table. Okay.
That together?
Okay, you guys ready to roll?
Right.
Let's go.
Okay. I'm calling the regular city council meeting of June 22nd, 2020 to order. Welcome, everyone. And I would ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Rod Runyon,
Here.
Linda Miller,
Here.
Tim McLaughlin,
Here.
Scott Randall,
Here.
Darcy Long Curtis,
Here.
and Mayor Mays.
Present. I would now like to ask the hardworking Rod Runyon, Councilor Rod Runyon, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
I'm a licensed medical professional, all from the country here in Holland.
The floor is approval of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is presentations.
Can anyone hear me?
And, we have a presentation regarding the Columbia Gorge Community College Treaty Oaks Skill Center. And I see Dr. Marva Cronin has joined us. I know she's there.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Dan, yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you. Can everyone else hear Dan? He was having audio difficulty.
Oh, Dan's here too?
Yes.
Michelle Spots.
Yes.
Oh, it's Michelle, okay. Okay, well, one or both of you, you may proceed. We're anxious to hear what's going on.
Great. I think Dan is starting and then I will pick it up midway through.
Don't see Dan. He's rebooting.
I think we lost him.
He's changing his boots. He's rebooting.
If he can't get on, I can just do it.
Well, Marta, maybe you could get us started and then when
Yes.
Dan gets in, you can, we'll.
Can I share my screen? Is that okay? So we
Okay.
can walk you through the presentation that we sent you?
He's on now.
He's on now, Marta.
Okay, Dan, are you gonna share your screen?
Yes, I am very
Okay.
much. Okay, here we go.
He's a ventriloquist.
All right.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. All righty. So first off, thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this update on the project. I'm sorry that I was off of screen there for a second. I lost audio, but I think we're okay right now. First off, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on the project where we are to date. We have, of course, over the past 6 months, 8 months now, we've brought on our project manager, Plan B Consultancy. The architect is Opsis LLC. And most recently, just in November, Bremick Construction, our general contractor, construction manager for this project. In April, as you see on your screen, we achieved 100% design development. We're looking at groundbreaking, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on that in just a second, and aiming for completion in fall term of 2021. First off, thanks to our community partners, including City of the Dow, all of the ones you see here, Wasco County, Port of the Dalles, and so many others for making this project possible. As a reminder to all of you and background for audience members who may be joining us, the state legislature allocated $7.3 million to this project to build a high bay workforce training skills center. Recognizing the challenge of affordable housing in our region, the legislature and the Department of Justice allowed us to allocate a portion of the funds towards student housing as well. We had to match that dollar for dollar, and we had until February of 2019 to achieve that match. Thanks to the county, the port, and others, we were able to achieve the match in February of 2019. So we have a total budget of $14.6 million to build the skills center and student housing. And I know we have a full agenda, so I'm going to move right along here, but I'd invite questions at any point. I'm going to be starting off talking about the housing. I'm going to turn it over to President Cronin to talk about the skills center. So here is what the student housing will look like. 2 floors, wood frame construction, 48 to 50 bed capacity, depending upon how we configure the on-site management for this thing. 1 to 2 student advisors on-site management. We'll have a floor plan here in just a second. If you're familiar with the college campus and the amphitheater, the college amphitheater, this building will be overlooking that amphitheater, just to the south of that. The skills center, kind of not really visible in this one, it's actually behind this building. You'll see kind of a larger structure off here to the right, off to the left rather. That's the Fort Dalles Readiness Center. Here we have the floor plan. This is the ground floor entrance over here on the west side of the building. We have an arrangement of quads, so 4 beds per quad. We have a shared bathroom space, study area, small kitchenette per quad. Down here on the ground floor, we have a kitchen commons. We have a little bit of background there. I'm not sure if that's a question or not, but of course, mechanical, we have a laundry area here. That's all on the ground floor. On the second floor, we have a student lounge up here, secondary lounge right here. Laundry here. And of course, more quads, more bed capacity there. We have the ability to add another 20 beds through an expansion on the east side of the building, locating the infrastructure in other parts on the approach to the building so that we don't have to move infrastructure down the road. We would like eventually to add another 20 bed capacity. View of the lobby, just walking into the building. Second floor lounge. You can see that other lounge off here, kind of a quiet area. It's glassed in. Another view of the student lounge on that second floor. We're capturing the view on all of these buildings looking out. You'll see that also in the Skill Center. And the kitchen commons on the first floor. This will be a shared dining area. Of course, we also have food service in building 1 on the campus, and we'll be making full use of that, doing a lot more than we have already been doing over the past few years at the cafe. The Hook is the name of our cafe. Each of the units, each of the quads has a small kitchenette under the shared bathroom. You have a study area in each of the quads. There's 1 of 2 bedroom configurations, 2 single beds here. And here you have an option for bunk beds. And with that, let me see if I'll check my notes really quickly here. Let's talk about the groundbreaking for a second. We're having the groundbreaking on Friday, July 10th. Now, with COVID-19 restrictions, we are limited to on-site capacity, so we have to be careful of that. We need to maintain social distancing. We certainly need to abide by the governor's requirements on this topic. So the groundbreaking, which is unusual, unfortunately, for a groundbreaking, is by invitation only. We are inviting all of the council, city manager, the mayor, of course. We will have the traditional golden shovel ceremony, although we'll probably be televising it with a webcam, and that's the concept for reaching a broader audience on this thing via that webcam. But we are not inviting, regrettably, the general public to attend the groundbreaking on site because the concern is we would exceed social distancing requirements. So you should all, council members should all have received invitation to this. I've heard back from several of you. I appreciate your consideration. If you do not wish to attend in person, of course, we'll be sending out that link to the webcam. So again, July 10th is our groundbreaking, and we're looking forward to completion for both of these projects by the summer, late summer of 2021, thanks to your support. With that, I will turn this over to Dr. Cronin and the Regional Skills Center there. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is the front of the Skill Center. If you come up to the campus, past the circle up the hill, you'll see the Skill Center on the right-hand side. It's where the blade is or was for the wind turbine, which is now no longer there. So that's where the Skill Center is going. So starting up on the top left, we have a design lab up in that corner with the 2 tables, the 2 round tables and the long table. That's what will be for CAD design, and it'll be like a computer lab for students to do certain projects. Then you move next to that and you have an office for faculty. It's a shared office, faculty and perhaps a dean who might be on duty at the time. Continuing on to the right, you have 2 classrooms, and you'll get a better view of these classrooms, but they're pretty big spaces, and there's a partition in the middle that enables us to have a really bigger space for an event, a community event, or an event that we're having on campus. Continuing on to the right, you have some storage there. But then you have the lobby, and the lobby you'll see when you come into the building, you'll come in through the lobby. There on the left-hand side. So with your first picture looked over at the canopy there all the way on the top right. That's what you were looking at originally on the picture that we just saw, and that's where you come into the building. So looking at the classroom space, right to the right of that under the canopy is a clean lab. It's a flex lab. There's going to be 3D printing and different things like that. And it's going to be very flexible. So, you know, it's easy to change out, which was the original vision for the Skill Center, to have as much flexible space as possible. Continuing along to the left there, you have a Zoom room, which is like a little peach colored thing. Thank you, Dan. So there's a lot of Zoom going on now, and there was a lot of Zoom going on before that. We had recently received a grant, USDA Rural Distance Learning Grant, so that we needed to increase capacity for Zoom anyway, so it's helpful to have that extra space. So continuing on to the left, you have the 2 major classrooms with the 2 major programs, the 2 major labs. So the first one is the construction technology program. So we went back and forth about construction. Will it be electricians? Will it be plumbers? It'll be a survey kind of program where there's a little bit of everything, a little HVAC, a little plumbing, a little electrical. So all the kinds of things you need to be a construction person. So over to the left of that is the metals fabrication lab, and that is our welding lab. We've expanded the program because we were finding that our welders were getting employed in other areas, not just welding. So metals fabrication is a bigger window, and we'll give them some more areas into which they can go after they graduate. So it's expanded our current space, which is currently behind the Readiness Center. The lab is twice the size perhaps. And then over to the left, you have all the storage for the welding, which was a big issue for the welding instructor because those things take up a lot of space. So this equipment, and you'll see another picture, is pretty standard. The booths, they're stuck, they're fixed. It's one of the few things in the building, few equipment pieces that are actually fixed to the floor, to the area. So Dan, if you'll slip over to the next slide.
Did it come through?
Are you stuck? There we go. All right, so this is these are the two classrooms. Over there in the middle where you see that gray partition is where the two classrooms can be divided into two separate classrooms. So this is what it looks like is one big space. So it's got great views of the gorge, as a lot of our rooms do. So it's a good space for community to use should they need it also if it's not in use at the time for classes. So keep going.
It should be coming in now.
This is when you come into the lobby, you look over to the left and you'll see the classrooms. The classrooms have open glass in the front. There's display areas for the classrooms. And to the right of that, there's a donor wall, which I think yeah, you can see the donor wall to the right of that behind the table with the yellow chairs. And then this is the same view of the lobby, but you're looking, the donor wall now is to the left, back here behind the girl who has the black pants on. And then over to the right is the classroom space with the open display cases in the front. So students could display projects or whatever. So that's one of the classrooms that were divided up that could be one big room. So then we have this. This is our clean lab, which is the flex space that we're planning on starting using with 3D printing, because there's been a lot of that going on and there's a lot of desire for students to do that. So that the first thing that will go in the clean room flex space will be 3D printing. You notice all the floors polished concrete. Keep switching, Dan, and look at the high ceilings. Very nice design. Opsis did a really good job. And this is the welding lab. And notice where the hoods are for the booths. So the welding booths will be fixed in place. And whenever possible, like all the construction materials and equipment, we're looking for movable materials, movable equipment that can be switched out if later in 5-10 years we find that construction technology is not as needed as it was here in the gorge. Keep going.
You should have construction technologies now.
There it is. Yes, so there's the construction technology lab. Again, this is just a kind of a mock-up of what it's going to look like. There's one of the little houses that we're going to be building as part of a class project. So we envision little houses, tiny homes all up on the hill after our students have completed them and put the electrical in, the plumbing, and done all the good things that we needed for them to do. So this is the construction technology lab. And as I mentioned, the equipment, we're looking for equipment that is movable. And this is the design lab that we're talking could be used for CAD or have computers lining the wall for students to do different projects related to metals fabrication or any of their other programs or construction technology programs. Now, the third program, if you recall, that we had talked about when we were talking about the skill center was aviation maintenance, and that will be at the Dallasport, the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport in Dallasport. So it won't be in the building. We figured we couldn't fit a jet in there, it would take up all the space. So to reiterate Dan's comments, I wanted to thank you all for your support. Without the city, the county, the Port of the Dalles, and all our other partners, this would likely not have been possible. So thank you for that. And we had a great team, which Dan told you. Opsis, Plan B, and Bremic are doing a great job. We're all working together, meeting weekly, making sure this goes up on time and as under budget as possible. So we're still expecting to open for next fall. The housing, given everybody being back on campus, the housing and the program should be opening next fall, barring any major delays. Anyone have any questions for us?
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Cronin or for Dan? Maybe one of you could comment on the, I noticed there is on the last page, you talked about the guidance provided by industry and public partners, including students, into the design of the skill center. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so just recently, maybe a few weeks ago, after the designs were finished for OPSIS, after they had created the designs, we asked students, what do you think of this space? You know, would you use this space? How would you use this space? Do we need this? Do we need that? We had some questions that were unanswered. Like, do they feel they need bike storage and things like that? So the survey enabled us to determine if we were on the right track and what we needed to add. And what was interesting was that we found that most of the questions showed us that we were on par with what we expected the space to be used for. Students were good with that space, and that's what they would have used it for too. So it kind of confirmed that you know, OPSIS and we all knew what we were doing in designing and the spaces for students. So it was very helpful. And a couple of our board members really wanted to hear, you know, are students interested in this, and would they live there if they could? And it seemed like the overwhelming majority were very impressed, and I think they would if they could. But by the time it's up, they'll probably be graduated, but they can tell all their friends.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Dan and Marta, for coming to our meeting, and it's nice to see you.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's unusual that one should go so smoothly and on time and on budget. So congratulations, and hopefully it'll continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6 is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one thing I wanted to remind you that I sent an email to you last week with the concept for our outdoor seating program that we've been working on with Main Street and the Chamber of Commerce, and ask you tonight if you have any questions or if you're comfortable with the concept. And if so, then I'm hoping an agreement for approval at our July 13th meeting that would be between the city and Main Street, so we can get that moving forward.
Do we have interest from the establishments that were using parklets before? Have we contacted them?
Main Street is doing that work, Councilor Miller, and I understand from an email I received today that there are at least 6, if not more, who want to get the parklets and or the pedestrian walkways in front of their businesses so they can start using the space.
Terrific.
But not necessarily the same ones we had before.
I'm not sure. They didn't give me names.
Okay. Any other questions for the city manager?
One of the things that was in here, it talks about flexibility. So if it's not parklets, there's some flexibility in deciding how the Main Street and the city can partner to help out, that kind of thing.
Yes. For instance, if you wanted to use your parking lot, if you had a parking lot, that's one of the things you could do. Or if you wanted to use the sidewalk space in front of your business for seating or for retail display, you might want to have one of the pedestrian walkways so that you can use the sidewalk and then have them walk out and around your display or your eating area.
Very thorough report, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone who would object if I bring the agreement to the next council meeting?
No objection.
No objection.
Full agreement with what you're doing.
Thank you very much. All I have tonight.
Thank you. City councilors reports. We'll start with Councilor Long Curtis.
Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since I was ill on the last council meeting, but since June 9th, I participated in a webinar called The Digital Divide in Rural America, the Urgency of Connectivity, which is what it sounds like, the need for rural broadband and some both policy and dollars coming on the federal level potentially. I also have been participating in the weekly League of Oregon Cities coronavirus conference calls. And I am also continuing weekly on the Unified Command COVID-19 Human Services check-ins. I'm representing the Housing Task Force on those meetings, where basically we'd moved over to migrant workers, cherries. We've had some outbreaks in a couple of the cherry orchards. And so we're talking about how we're handling food distribution to them so we can keep them quarantined. And that seems to be going as well as could be expected. So I think that the pre-planning has gone very well by Unified Command. And my final report, I'm sure that the two other counselors on urban renewal will have something to say as well, but I'll just say that on the 16th at our last urban renewal meeting, there was a very, what I would consider a jaw-dropping report on the condition of the Tony's building that is going to impact the ENA that we've been working on toward getting some kind of agreement toward. And so we're still working on that, but that seems to be kind of a big setback for us. And that's my report.
Thank you. I was remiss because I went out of turn here, so I'll call on the city attorney to give her report.
The city attorney was excused from the meeting. She had to be somewhere else this evening.
Okay. No harm, no foul then, huh? Okay, Councilor Miller.
Okay, so on the 10th of June, I attended the Household Hazardous Waste meeting, and there is, let's see, the events that usually take place once a quarter in Hood River, the Dalles, and then some of the outlying areas, they have been canceled until August, and if we even have them then. And then there's going to be a subcommittee that is going to get together, and we're maybe restructuring for recycling and household hazardous waste. And then on the 16th of June, attended the Urban Renewal Agency meeting, and as Councilor Long Curtis said, yes, it was jaw-dropping. The interested parties in purchasing the Tony's building, actually there's two buildings combined in that. The funds that would be needed to bring it up to not even code, but to be an inhabited buildings was
$750,000.
Yes. So we decided to put it out for an RFP again, request for what? Request for RFP.
Proposal.
Proposal. Duh. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. To put it out again and to see with the knowledge of what the condition of the building. When Urban Renewal bought those buildings, it was under the impression that the Tocola development was going to demo and go ground level or below. And so it was not a concern of what the conditions were. Well, now it seems to be. We also had a request from the purchaser of the blue building. He wanted to restructure the loan and to add parking or to purchase the parking spaces that are behind the blue building. And the agency decided to, we don't want to do that. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin.
That urban renewal meeting was jaw-dropping and alarming. And I agree that we're in a box canyon and trying to find a way out of that one. So we'll continue. Airport Commission that Friday morning on Zoom. Issues surrounding the new tanks that were purchased to increase capacity at the airport and have above ground tanks. The fuel filter system, appears to need replacement or upgrading. And Aaron might be able to speak to that later. But that one's moving forward. And then I do appreciate seeing the second Cherry Heights. David, thank you for your making that happen. And that's my report.
Thank you. Council Randall,
Nothing to report.
Council Reagan.
Just a couple things, met with the mayor on the 20th of June, and other than that, multiple meetings over the last 3 or 4 weeks as we are helping the Columbia Gorge Veterans Museum find a new location, and I think it's important to the community, and so that's ongoing at this time.
Thank you. As part of my report, on June the 10th, I attended the Dalles Rotary meeting. The guest speaker for the Rotary Club that day was Chief Pat Ashmore, who did a great job talking about the protest march of the previous Saturday and what else is going on with the police department. I also attended 2 League of Oregon City conference calls regarding the coronavirus. And I also attended the aforementioned jaw dropping ceremony on June 16th. I also have a resolution here under council reports, Julie. Am I going to handle this or did you? You're muted. Oh.
That's for you to handle.
Okay. What you have before you is a resolution opposing the revisions to the Columbia Gorge management plan policies for the urban area boundary revisions. The resolution you have in front of you is really a culmination of weeks of attending Gorge Commission meetings, as well as a work session that was held on March the 9th here at City Hall with the City Council. We had a variety of guests and speakers that addressed the City Council at that time regarding the Gorge Commission plans. And this particular resolution talks about the original act, which was passed in 1986, which was called the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area Act. And it also talks about the 2 main purposes of the act. Number 1 was to protect the scenic, cultural, recreational, and natural resources of the Columbia River Gorge. And secondly, to encourage growth in existing urban areas and allow future economic development in a manner that is consistent with the first purpose. Management plan originally was done by the Gorge Commission in 1991. It was adopted and they were directed by Congress to review the management plan every 5 to 10 years to determine whether it should be revised. So they last did a management plan review in 2004, so they are long overdue, but that's really not the issue here. The resolution also talks about the real issue being in 2016, they began to work on a second revision to the management plan, and they plan to adopt this during the year 2020. The Gorge Commission plan proposes, I think it's an understatement to say that there are significant policy changes as part of the amendments that undercut the purpose of the act, one of the purposes of the act, and that namely is to encourage growth and to allow future economic development. In effect, and the plans effectively prohibit any future growth in the urban areas. For example, the proposed management plan would allow communities to expand the urban growth boundary by only up to 20 acres or 1% of its land area. And since we have well over 6,000 acres here in the city of the Dalles, we would be stuck with the 20 acres as opposed to 1%. And even 1% would be woefully inadequate, in my opinion, to expand our urban growth boundary. So the bottom line is the council, by passage of this resolution, would oppose the 2020 amendments to the plan that fail to protect the economic vitality of the gorge. And the proposed revisions are not consistent with the original act that was passed in 1986 and would preclude future growth opportunities for the urban area. So I'm asking the City Council to adopt this resolution opposing the Gorge Commission's effort to amend their management plan because, again, it is inconsistent with the original purpose of the act that was passed in 1986. At that point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I would like to add something.
Sure.
For the audience and whatnot that's out there in front of us, and we've had these for a little while, are about 6 pages of communities, agencies, et cetera, around the Columbia River Gorge, all opposed to going forward on this, this item and agreeing with the opposition as being the best policy. Mr. Mayor, if I may, though, we have a Gorge Commissioner in attendance tonight. Roger Nichols is here. Roger, would you be interested in talking a little bit about your feelings on this resolution I have before us to oppose?
Yes, with your permission, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Nichols.
Okay.
Mr. Hagee, Scott Hagee is here too with the County Commission. We'd like to hear from Scott as well, but go ahead.
All right. Well, I will tell you that after having worked for 4 years on various aspects of this, that I find that we have actually gone backwards in terms of additional restrictions placed on the possibility of urban area boundary expansion. And that I will oppose in the upcoming motions the passage of that. And I believe we may have the votes to stop it, but we will talk to you about that later.
Thank you. Commissioner Hagee is with us. Scott, do you have any comments about the resolution? I know the county is going to be looking at this on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, we will look at it on Wednesday. I guess one thing I would point out is that if you think about the city of the Dalles, the urban growth boundary, I believe, has not changed since 1983 or very close to there. So we've been growing, obviously adding jobs, adding tax base, and we have not had any expansion since then. And essentially what this proposed action would do is limit us to 20 acres forever for the full time of, I guess, existence. So I can tell you that I'm very passionate about economic development. I'm very passionate about jobs for our community, jobs for our citizens, jobs for our children and our grandchildren. And if we don't have land to do that on, we're not going to be very successful. And even today, from the Port of the Dalles would tell you that if a business came here of any moderate size, even like 10 acres, there's not a site out there today for them to go on. So I think it's critical for the future of the Dalles and the future of Wasco County to be able to grow. I think there's lots of regulations and sideboards already out there. We don't need this as a sideboard to ultimately limit us. So I definitely support it, and I'm going to be voting for it on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for any of the speakers or any, regarding this resolution? Anybody? Any more comments?
Mr. Mayor, I
Councilwoman
have
Curtis?
so I just wanted, just to make clear for people in the public that I think is really important for the integrity of the National Scenic Act that we maintain the two purposes. And so I know that there are some misconceptions out there that somehow with the city being in favor of this, somehow we are turning our back on the other side, and that's absolutely not true. The act has been enforced unequally, and my concern is not that we need to expand today, tomorrow, or even in the near future. I don't know what it holds for the Dalles, but I think it is absolutely critical that we maintain the right to be able to expand our urban growth boundary in the future. And this basically was going to end all of that discussion forever. And that is the part that I am absolutely opposed to. So I hope that people understand that the city and the county and the port, we're not trying to push something through right now, but we are all forward looking, and you have really good leadership. And I hope the community feels that we're doing a good job representing your interests by protecting the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve to adopt the resolution. Council Runyon?
I'll make that motion. Clerk will read it. Is that correct? Is that the way
The whole thing?
No, the whole thing, but by title. Clerk has to read it.
Okay.
Under your system. Okay.
Well, let's get a second first. Anybody have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Council Runyon, seconded by Council Miller to adopt the resolution. Would the city clerk like to read the title?
This is a resolution, so the title is not required to be read. That's only for ordinances.
Okay, I think it's been adequately explained what the resolution is for anyway. So is there any more discussion about the resolution?
Shouldn't it be the resolution number?
Let me just read that and we'll vote on it then, if that's the case. So we got resolution number 20-016, a resolution opposing proposed revisions to the Columbia River Gorge Management Plan policies or urban renewal boundary revisions.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that the motion is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And now we move to item 9, which is the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. We have the special council meeting minutes of May 26th. We have the regular city council meeting minutes of June the 8th, and we have the approval of an amendment to our operations of OMI, now Jacobs agreement to operate our city's wastewater treatment plant for fiscal year 21 on the consent agenda. I guess I should read that. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the end of the action item section of the agenda. Is there any discussion regarding the consent agenda? Any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
This is moved by Council Miller, seconded by Council Runyon to approve the consent agenda. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 10A, workers' compensation insurance renewal. I know that our carrier is here, Brianna Wimber, and our staff member, Daniel Hunter, is present as well. Will Daniel be presenting the staff report?
Daniel will present the staff report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. The report in front of you kind of gives some 30,000-foot level narrative of the workers' comp premiums for this year. The detailed report was provided by Brianna Wimber at Stratton Insurance. The big, I guess, point to make is our premiums are going down again this year for the 4th straight year in a row. And that's largely, I think, due to hard work by our safety officer, Bailey Volk, and really good diligence on behalf of all of our city employees to really do their work safely. And with more detail, I guess I'll turn it over to Brianna Wimmer, and she can give you the details and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Daniel. It is always a pleasure to be at the City Council. Thank you guys for having me again this year. I report throughout the year, and City of the Dalles just gives me more good news. You guys are rocking the work comp. You guys are sending your employees home safe and sound, and that is amazing. So as Daniel said, work comp is continued to go down. Last year we had a really large moment because we dropped below the 1.0 mod factor. And if you guys remember, 1.0 is what they consider to be a normal amount of claims and claims costs. And you guys were below that last year, and you are below that again by quite a bit again this year. City of the Dalles is currently sitting with a mod factor of 0.89. That's awesome. So the premium this year is based off of a reported payroll of just a tad above 7 million. And that brings the premium below 100,000, which has been a little while since we've been there. So it's great. 97,568. As were last year, we were at 102,000 and some change. So that is wonderful news. I continue to hear from SAFE how much they enjoy working with your safety officer. Great feedback about that. Right now, the mod factor, just good job, just awesome job all the way around, looking really good. SAFE did just declare a dividend for this upcoming year. We don't know what that is this year. Of course, they're never guaranteed. So I will be back to update you and the council what that looks like when I know more, which is usually in about September. So at this time, does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Hunter or Ms. Wimber?
I just have a comment. I'd like to thank every single city employee because it takes an effort to be safe.
It does.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to point out that none of the city council members have experienced any injuries throughout 2019 and 20, so I think we deserve.
We can change that.
Be careful going down the stairs.
Oh, that's why you take the elevator.
That's why I take the elevator. Okay, any other questions or comments? Great. I think Councilor Miller said it well, took the words right out of my mouth. Good job, good leadership from the staff, and every city employee has certainly contributed their fair share toward the dropping premiums. So thank you.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Thank you.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to authorize the city manager to renew the coverage for workers' compensation with SAFE and through the Stratton Insurance Company.
Move to authorize the city manager to renew the city's workers' compensation coverage with SAFE through Stratton Insurance for fiscal year 2021.
So moved by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the coverage. Is there any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 It's been approved unanimously. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Brianna.
Finally, we have a resolution authorizing the city to serve as a co-applicant for Federal Economic Development Administration funding. And I see our airport manager is here. And I trust that she will be giving the staff report. Ms. Rasmussen.
Thank you. Good evening. Yeah, so good follow-up to our presentation from the college earlier. But this resolution number 20-014 is for the city to serve as a co-applicant with Klickitat County for a federal US EDA grant for, it's kind of two-pronged. One is for extension of utilities up the east side of our taxiway in the business park. And then the second piece is to construct a hangar, be sort of similar to what was built for Lifelight, a flex space hangar where half of the hangar would be leased to Columbia Gorge Community College for their aviation maintenance training program. And then the other half could, if there was someone who wanted to use it as a long-term rental, that would be an option, but also for short-term rentals for transient jet traffic. That's a need that we currently have at the airport. We're not able to provide jet storage for people who are in for maybe a week or a few days. They often have to fly down to Troutdale to get their jets out of the weather. So Klickitat County has agreed to, the Klickitat County Public Economic Development group has agreed to provide the $700,000 match money. And since we're in a opportunity zone in Klickitat County, then we're eligible for 20% funding through the EDA and then only a 20% match, which is pretty great. So, and Dan, if you had anything you'd like to add.
No, thank you, Aaron. I think that covers it, but we'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Dan or Aaron? Okay, looking for a motion.
I can do that. Move to approve resolution number 20-014, authorizing the city of the Dalles to serve as co-applicant with Klickitat County for federal EDA funding.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin and seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the resolution. Is there any more discussion or questions? All those in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11 is adjournment. Before I adjourn, is there any other business that anybody would like to bring up?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Curtis.
Yes, so I just wanted to ask the city manager for an update on whether or not we're all going to be able to be back in the council chambers starting in July like she had anticipated, so we can maintain our 6-foot social distancing but have all the council members together.
Thank you, Councilor Long Curtis. At this time, we're planning to continue the way we have it right now. We are trying to get some additional things in the council chamber, including teleconferencing. It doesn't look like we'll be able to do that this summer, but we can continue to look at the, we wouldn't be able to get 6 feet in this room. I'm sitting in here now and only every other person would be able to sit at the dais. We could probably try to do some plexiglass dividers, but I don't know how that would work with our current sound system in this room. So if this is working for everyone right now, we'll probably continue on this way indefinitely. We don't know how long.
I guess I would, I'd have to give that some thought as to whether or not that's working for me, because it does put me outside the rest of the counselors. And although the mayor's done a great job of being able to see if I'm speaking, it is a little bit awkward to know if I can make a motion or talk, because I know there's a lag. So I would hope that we would continue to try to find something that's more equitable, and also for having, like when we had our, some of our, sorry, my brain is lost, but we need our media in sometimes when we have sessions, I think, and it's good for them to be involved as well. But I just really think it's important for council members and sometimes for staff reports that we're all together, or that we're all on equal standing, that we're all on Zoom.
Right. If we continue to have meetings, if we wanted to bring everyone in this room, then we lose the Zoom, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts, but we will continue to do our best to figure something out for you.
Thank you.
But I think that having the capability of also offering Zoom for people outside of the community is also important. So even when we go back into the council chambers, we need to at least look at the possibility of offering that as a potential extension of city council meetings.
And that's one of the problems we're working on right now, Councilor McLaughlin, is we don't have that ability in this room right now.
Correct.
How many more can we fit in here? Is this the limit, or can we fit one more in here?
You could fit one more in that room where you are. I think that Councilor Long Curtis is trying to protect people by staying home.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Any other business before the council? With that, I will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.
What we could do is rotate. We have 4 here. I could stay home next time.
We're not muted at this point.